today, our deputies began an investigation into some residential burglaries that had occurred the previous day in the West Chase area. Our detectives were conducting their investigation and they received information that led them to the apartment complex behind us, the Town and Country apartment complex, where they believed a suspect was and potentially some evidence there at the scene. Our deputies set up surveillance on that location. Around 6:20, they observed a female exit the residence. They approached the female while she was in the doorway, began talking to her, trying to get some additional information. While our deputies were doing that, they observed a male come from the rear of the apartment armed with a firearm, and that individual shot in the direction of the deputies. At that time, the deputies, in fear for their life, returned fire. They then began to back out of the situation to try to gain cover to protect themselves. They actually had to go to the apartment next door to seek cover and also protect themselves and the family that was inside. At that time, we didn't know whether the individual was shot or not. They secured the scene. We called for our SWAT team and crisis negotiators. They arrived and again set up a perimeter. We tried to evacuate any neighbors that were potentially in danger to ensure their safety. Our crisis negotiators eventually came into contact with the suspect after several hours, had conversations with him, and it did an excellent job in getting him to surrender without any further action or violence towards the deputies. Neither of our deputies or any of the deputies that were involved, again, thank God, were not injured. The suspect was not injured by the deputies' shots. The two deputies involved were Deputy Joseph Lopez, who's been employed with us since 2005, and Detective Bradley Garbett, who has been employed since 2009. Again, fortunately, none of the deputies involved were injured. The suspect will be looking at 3 charges of ag assault on Leo with a firearm, as well as we'll be following up with charges from the original burglaries. But this obviously took priority. And our biggest concern is for our deputies and the citizens in this neighborhood that fortunately no injuries occurred to. The suspect is a Nathaniel Cruz, a Hispanic male, date of birth 9/30 of 1983. We're still doing research on his criminal history, but right now he's been arrested and charged previously with false information to a pawnbroker and dealing in stolen property. But again, I have to commend the work of our negotiators and SWAT team to prevent any further injuries, again, to our deputies or the community. With a firearm on law enforcement officer. So there was 3 officers in close range, and we'll be following up additional charges regarding the burglaries. And my understanding is TPD placed a warrant out for the suspect, but I haven't confirmed that yet.
Did you say that the burglaries that you believe he's connected to were house burglaries?
Yes, residential occupied burglaries in the West Chase area. Right now, we've written search warrants and are still in the process of executing those and walking through our deputies who were involved in the shooting. So we expect to be out here several hours before we find that out.
You guys essentially shut this apartment complex down so the people who are out be allowed back in?
Yes, we're working on that right now. We had to make sure it was safe and secure and get most of our big equipment out here so that they could go home at a reasonable hour. But again, our concern was for their safety. The deputies went next door where there was a family already inside for their safety and to make sure that family was safe. And then our SWAT team actually had to come in and do a rescue to make sure everybody got out safely before the subject surrendered.
Is there any idea how many times he fired at deputies?
It's still very early. We're still doing our investigation, so I don't have that specific information. We should know that maybe sometime in the morning we can get that to you.
One more question?
The woman that you guys initial contact, any charges for her or any trouble with her?
Right now, we're still early into that part because they were just talking to her when the shooting occurred, so we'll have to make a determination on that after we get a little more information. And again, we'll let you know that information.
Can you talk about how scary this is? This happened in an apartment complex, like you said. It was
Oh, it's very close quarters. Scary for our deputies, scary for the individuals that live there, and again, fortunately, none of them were hurt, and that's our priority, is making sure the public's safe.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you.